Yeah, well, I know we've got the external mic, there's a little bar that,
Yeah, but there's no bar right now.
I know, I would feel better if I saw that deflecting. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't we just do this?
I
We're
didn't
gonna
look
have
like
to
a bar.
go with this.
Yeah,
And I guess you can take the card and take it home.
yeah, and I'll check it out.
And, you know, we wouldn't have invested 8 hours to do this.
No,
So check it after today, and if it doesn't work, then we'll have to alter something
right.
next time.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it will.
Yeah, you should. I mean, as I remember the pastor saying, you disconnect that mic cable.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're ready to go?
All right. Did you want me to introduce it, Dan, or did you? It's kind of going to be impromptu. It's not too formal.
Yeah, no.
Just
Right.
There'll be a lot of.
Do something for the blooper, so at the end we can do something.
Well,
Alright.
you know, I just wanted to hear the story, the whole story, because I got little bits and pieces, but I wanted to hear the whole story in its entirety. And go.
Yeah, that'd be like a perfect intro. I just want to hear the whole story. All right, start it, and he's going to say it.
It started.
That
sorry.
was the.
All right, start it again.
Ruined it.
No,
No,
anyways,
you'll edit it. I mean.
We don't have the chopping block thing because I can't do that for you guys.
but
So.
anyways, it doesn't matter. We just want to hear the story. So if you can go through
Alright.
it, just take your time and don't rush, because if we need more sessions, we can.
That's right. Yeah, no, I'm not even thinking we're going to get very far at all. But you got to start somewhere. Yeah, so you want to know, why am I here? How did I get here? How was it that I lived in Oregon for over 17 years and ended up in Sacramento? Well, there's a story. There's a very huge story. Very, very few people, and I think I can count on about 2 fingers who know it, and I mean, witness it firsthand, and most people can't even, they just, how do you say it, freaked out. They just-
Well, it's
too
compelling.
big, it's too big, right, is the way of putting it. They said, just, I can't even go there mentally. So, the story begins with my wife, and because she is the central character in this. So I'm just going to start there. I've got bullet points here. These will just be my cue. I know this will be a little clumsy on video.
We'll take your time.
Yeah. So I want to explain, you know, how I met my wife. I met her in 1988. I worked at a job in San Jose as an electronics technician. And the company I worked for was named Compumetric. And the owner of the company was the cousin of my wife's mother. My mother-in-law's cousin is who I had been working for. And in the summer of '88, she came out. He brought her out so that she could work during the summer. Now, during this time, she had just completed her sophomore year in college. She was going to an Ivy League school in Boston, an all-women's college called Smith College. And so it was between her sophomore and junior years I met her. We hit it off right away, and you know, took her out. Right out of the gate, I learned that she was a Christian, and of course that's everything. And if she wasn't a Christian, wasn't declared a Christian, there was no second date.
Did her family take to you at first, or
Did they what?
did they like you?
Well, you know, let me get to that. That's kind of a hard question to answer, at least initially.
Okay.
We'll get to that. But now, mind you, I haven't met her family. Her just so you know, her parents live in Florida. So during the summer, her folks are in Florida. She's going to college in Boston, and she's just out for the 3 months to work in between semesters. So anyway, we hit it off, and I mean, I should say hit it off really big. I mean, just, you know, instant attraction and bond. And but eventually, her time, her time out there during that summer came to an end. She had to go back to college, and of course, you know, it wasn't like I didn't know that. And so we just said, let's you know, stay close, let's stay connected, and you know, write, whatnot, call, write. And so when she went back, that's what I was expecting. And when she went back, I never heard from her again. I sent her like 3 or 4 letters, and I just never heard a word from her. And, at that time, I just had to go. I should also say that she's 20 years old. I was 26 or 26, maybe 27. So, you know, I just figured she just didn't know how to deal with it. She knew she had a commitment to complete this schooling, 3,000 miles away. She
Right.
just must have just said, hey, this isn't gonna work, and I'm just gonna cut the guy off. So that was how we met, and that's how it ended at the end of the summer. Just, at that time, during that summer, I actually took a new job with a microscope company, or it was a microscopy company called Leica, and started doing field service work, which is just mention that because that'll come into play later. So I never hear from her after the summer of '88. 2.5 years go by. I'm just moving on with my life, and I'm working a new job, and everything's going quite well. And one day, I believe it was in October of '91, right? I see on my answer machine beeping, blinking red light, like I would see. And what a shock it was when I lighted it. It was negative. And first thing she just said, I'm calling just to first and foremost profoundly apologize for what I've done, just to cut you off like that. I think she even said I didn't know what to do. It was just, she didn't know how to handle it. She just was calling to apologize. She said if I felt, compelled to call her back, that she would very much appreciate that. If not, she understood. So I took it as a very mature communication. So I called her back, and just like it was in the summer of '88, it was instantly that connection. Now, I should say, she's now out of college at this point. And she's working for a company called Cargill. I think she was at one point a trader, a commodities trader, in a certain division. And I think she was in, believe it or not, salt sales. Obviously, gigantic quantities of salt.
So her degree was in economics, or?
Her degree was in English with a minor in theater. But she's now working for a commodities company in sales. And when she called me, she was in Texas, in a suburb, a small suburb of Dallas. Arlington, I believe it was the name of it. And so we just kind of picked up where we left off. And I just started to say, well, why don't I come out and visit, see where it goes. So it just kept on, and I knew that this was the woman I wanted to marry, and certainly got the exact same impression from her. And so I courted her and then proposed, and of course she said yes, and then we started the process of planning a wedding. So my next bullet point here is meeting her parents. You would ask about meeting her parents. Now, their parents lived in Sarasota, Florida. I didn't know anything about Florida.
It's by Tampa, right?
It's about an hour and a half south.
Okay.
If you know where Bradenton is, Bradenton and Sarasota are kind of like a twin city there. But it's about an hour and a half south of Tampa.
Okay.
It is on the coast, inland side. So we finally go out to do the formal meeting of the parents, and the first thing I notice is when we get to their home. It's a very, very nice home. It's a very well-to-do place. And I'm not saying Bill Gates or anything like that. It was just on a very, very nice estate, and I said, well, okay, her folks did well, and that's good to see. And so, and you had asked about what that meeting was like, and honestly, I guess the honest answer is it was just sort of lukewarm. There was no hostility, but it was just like, okay, this is who our son-in-law is going to be, and it didn't mean anything to me at the time. I just said, well, how are parents supposed to react when they meet their future son-in-law for the first time? But there was nothing bad about it. I don't know, I was there for maybe 3 days, and then I'm still working in California, and I flew back, and Megan, actually at that time, because she was literally moving around. This company, Cargill, had her moving every 6 months. That was by design, how her job was. So this time, I think she was in Baltimore. So she went, back to Baltimore. I went back to Silicon Valley, and we continued. We now had to say, okay, now how are we going to make this all come together? Once I met the folks, it was kind of their job to, do the wedding plans and get that going. And
now, were her parents Christians as well, or?
they were declared Christians.
Oh, okay.
pick that word.
Right.
But yes, that day we're declared Christians. And so anyway, after that meeting, I knew it was time to get Megan and I in the same location at least. And so I, after talking with her, she applied. She tried to get some work in the Bay Area through Cargill, and they just wouldn't go for it. I said, well, you're just going to have to quit and move out, and we'll get married, and we'll just go from there. So I had got her a townhome, rented her a townhome in Santa Clara. That would have been January of '93. And once I got her out here, got her moved, and it was now crunch time getting this wedding to come together. And I quickly realized, or soon enough, that this wasn't going to be just an also-ran wedding. That her folks were going to make this a big production, although I didn't have any idea how big it was going to be until I got there. But during this time, Megan is finally out in Santa Clara. She says, well, I have to go back to visit my mother and work out the details of the wedding. And I said, oh yeah, of course. So sent her out, and I think she was supposed to be there like a week doing all this. And somewhere in the middle of that, I get a call from her, and she's just absolutely hysterical. And she's just bawling, hysterical. What's wrong? What's wrong? She goes, my mother's just going completely insane. She's just ripping me to pieces. And I'm, what are you talking about? And I was trying to get some kind of sense of what I'm hearing. And she's just crazy. She's just crazy. She's just screaming and yelling, and no matter what I agreed to, then she would start screaming and yelling at me for that. And long story short, I just basically said, okay, this is what you're saying is true. And your mother's, missing half her cards.
Right, she sounds psychopathic.
She's, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I didn't make that determination then, but I certainly did soon enough. And I just said, look, get out of there. Because she was just hysterical. I could just tell her mother was just literally like just beating her, figuratively speaking, emotionally beating her like a, raggedy end doll. I said, get on the next plane, get out of there. That's the only thing I could, figure out what to do at that point. And she did. And as soon as she got back, we said, well, what are we going to do here? I don't need, this is all new to me. What's this thing with your mother? She's lost her mind. And it was actually Megan that broached the subject. She says, maybe we should just, just head up to Reno and just get a formal, marriage that way. And I didn't realize, now mind you, it didn't really matter all that much to me, but I know a wedding matters a lot to the woman. And to hear her make that recommendation, I realized, oh, then this was really serious. And I knew she wasn't joking. And I said, are you really serious? Why don't we just think about this a little bit? We do have a little bit of time to, make a call on this. And eventually she said, okay, for my grandmother's sake and some other members of the family, she said, I'll just plow through this. I said, are you sure? Because it's like a one-of event, and she just said, okay, yeah, I think I'll handle it. So we went forward, and let me just check my notes here. Yeah, I did write psycho. Anyway, okay, so it came down to, I think that event had happened maybe 4 weeks before the wedding, and this is off the best of my memory at this point, this particular incident. She had come over to, I still kept my rental room. I rented a room over in East Side San Jose. And she had come over on one of many visits, and I just remember one time, and I don't remember what led up to it, it just happened, and all of a sudden she just starts breaking down, and she starts crying. I said, what's wrong? She said, my parents didn't protect me, they just watched. I said, what are you talking about? Watched what? She said, they just watched my brother's raping. And I said, what are you talking about? Now at this point, I can't even process this information.
May I make a suggestion? Before you guys get any further, that video is not going to be able to record you guys. You guys want to use the mic and just keep the speakers off?
Well, how do you know it? It's supposed to be.
Because it doesn't. I don't think it's going to work. The mic is going to go that far away.
I think it will.
The distance?
Yeah, it
Well, I just
could.
want to make a suggestion for you guys.
No,
to
it's not.
continue.
Yeah.
It worked for the wedding, right?
Was that?
It worked for the wedding, right?
Yeah, it used to work for Pastor Jimenez's sermons too.
Yeah.
It just wasn't-
It sounds really crappy. I'll say
How do you know?
Yeah,
Because I've listened to his sermon, his audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
What do you-
we're closer
I
than
think
when
we're
he was.
closer.
Right.
Than he
Yeah.
is.
I agree, I'm just saying, it would sound so much better if you had him on the mic.
Well, here's the thing, if I had the mic, then you're gonna hear me great, you're not gonna hear any questions from these guys.
It would be a lot better than the video, though, that's all I'm saying.
Well,
But-
Well,
let's
let's
just
just
see how it
go
is.
with this, if
Right,
it's
yeah.
really
Yeah.
bad, the next session, we'll
Okay,
go
yeah,
that way.
okay.
But I appreciate you saying
I
that.
just wanted to kind of throw it in there before.
So you were saying that she confided in you, was it before or
This
after
is
the
like,
wedding?
no, this is like 2 weeks, I mean, we're like coming up.
And you knew the brothers?
Yeah, I had already met these brothers.
And they seemed weird or what?
The older brother was very, very antisocial, you know, very, I mean, like, don't talk to me kind of a thing. And the one who was younger was like 2 or 3 years younger. Then the oldest brother, I don't know how to put it this way. He came across as a $3 phony bill. I mean, he just, like, it was a mask I was seeing this guy.
Mhm.
He just played out and acted out the good Christian. And, you know, all I could think is like, okay, well, I mean, I know there are people like that out there, whatever. Didn't think anything of it. But mind you, it's between having met them already and then I get this admission from her. Because the next thing we're going to be doing is we're getting on a plane and going to get married.
Well, what kind of parents would just allow that to happen? and
Well,
watch?
when we get to the end of this, you'll answer your own questions. That's what I'm saying. But I mean, at this point, anybody listening to this should be primed, going, whoa, wait a minute. Because I mean, the key word here, it wasn't just that the brothers raped her. This was a ritual.
Yeah, no, it
This
sounds
was
like
a
a ritual.
ritualistic raping, and the best I can remember is that she said that her mother watched this, stood out, you know, in the corner of the room, or whatever, and watched it. Or, and I don't know for sure, but she might have even said both of her parents did.
Well, you know, it reminds me, I mean, thinking about her mother just cutting her daughter up like that, just for wanting to marry you. It sounds.
Well, it
to
wasn't
me-
for that reason.
It wasn't.
No, that was not the reasoning, no. At least that's not what it was told to me. It just sounded like this woman was just completely going psycho.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what Megan was doing in terms of trying to put this all together. Her mother was just a psychopath. And I mean, I'll just say that now, her mother is a raging psychopath at minimum, if not just an outright demon. But,
Okay.
So you had to fly to Florida for the wedding?
yeah, we had to fly to Florida.
Well, you guys were living in San Jose area?
Yeah, in Santa Clara proper.
Okay.
And just down the street from where you guys had the reception.
Yeah.
Just not even half a mile from there. But yeah, I mean, this is a really, really key thing. You know, obviously, I don't know who would ever watch this video or hear this story. I have no idea what someone's, you know, spiritual level is. But depending on that, I mean, when you hear that, and I could just tell from you, you knew what that meant. You knew not just what that would do to her, but what that meant in terms of what this family is, or at least you largely do. Let me, you know, to continue, you know, it just gets bigger and bigger. But anyway, at that time, I mean, I didn't even know what to think about it. I was just so shocked. Part of me, I was even thinking, okay, this can't be true. I mean, you must be just, you know, I mean, she's just bawling. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what happened. Obviously, it was bad. I mean, I believe her when she said she got raped, but it just seemed impossible to believe that was actually the case. And even if I knew it then, I did not have the wisdom and understanding to say, oh, okay, wait a minute, stop the presses. I know what this means. Call your parents. The wedding is on indefinite hold here. There's things that got to be worked out. I just didn't have that. I didn't
Well,
have that.
it's most definitely a satanic ritual of some type.
Oh, it clearly was.
And-
In retrospect.
And I know that in certain sects, they actually gain power from basically stealing the energy from the sexual victim.
Yeah.
And they use them up, and they can basically suck out the life force.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, you're putting your finger right on it. I mean, and that's, so now you know at this point, right before the wedding, I mean, this is what I had. I didn't know what it was, but this is what I married into.
So what did you do with the input? Did you confront parents, the brothers about it?
No, well, I
No,
mean,
no.
I picked her brain the best I could.
Yeah.
And she just, on the one end, I can't talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about it. On the other hand, I did say, well, wait a minute, where is this at now? Now she said it, and this went on, from what I recall, from when she was 8 years old to 10. So you're talking about a long, long time. I don't know, once a week, once a month, I don't know how often these events took place. But even if it's one, you'd think that would just drive somebody half insane right there, especially if you're being brutalized like that and your parents are standing back and watching.
It was a complete lack of empathy within the family.
Within
Which is
the
supposed to be,
Oh, yeah, it's the absolute satanic manifestation of hell's version of what a family should be, if it can even use the word. But anyway, that is a very, very big piece of evidence here. In fact, it's probably, in fact, when you said last weekend, when you said at the restaurant last weekend, it's now, I'm convinced that's the most central piece of evidence in the entire story is this thing of phones. But anyways, and you now know that. So we get past that. Megan, by the way, Megan did say that things were, that was then, this is now, their relationship with their brothers and their family. It's good. Looking back, and I can see, she was just telling me basically what she figured I needed to hear to move forward, and so I did. So we went forward. So April 10th, 1993, we got married in Sarasota. And I will say this wedding was a gigantic affair. This was like a mafia wedding, if I could use that as an analogy, because I had no idea. But I'm just saying a minimum of 300, maybe 500 people at it, and they were well into six figures putting this thing together.
wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. I have no idea what the figure was, but it was a very expensive event at their country club. They had a country club that they belonged to, and it was like the finest one in the Sarasota area. And by the way, Sarasota, if you don't know it, Sarasota is a retirement community. As I know what else is new, all of Florida is mostly, but this was like a retirement community for the very wealthy. I later learned that. I didn't know that at the time, but in Sarasota, big bucks reside. So we got married, and it was very stressful just because of the scope of it, but it went well, and we left and went on our honeymoon, and got settled back into Santa Clara again. Now I moved into the townhome there on North Winchester Boulevard, and we were only married. We were only there for about 3 months before my company offered me a position. They said they got a contract position coming up in Colorado Springs, that there was going to be a customer building a semiconductor fab there that had committed to making a gigantic order of tools, and they said they wouldn't place even one order unless they had a guy there in town for them first and foremost. So they made the offer to me, and it came to me at a good time, because I was just realizing Silicon Valley prices, and I know this sounds crazy now, but 20 years ago they were just totally out of reach for me. So economically it was a good choice to go, and so we did, and there we got ourselves a, let's see here. So we flew out there. A company flew me out there for a week to find a house. Ended up buying a beautiful spec home, which is, don't know what that is, but it was a home halfway finished in this very, very nice neighborhood. Beautiful overlook of the city, and we just said, we'll take it. They finished it up to our liking, and we moved in, and it was a screaming deal. For what you got compared to California, it was just a screaming deal. And we moved in and just started getting on with life, and me taking care of work and whatnot. So my next cue here. So this is really where we're I'm starting to get into the routine of married life, and I don't know how else to say this, but it was very good. We had a very, very loving relationship, very, very tender. We were just always very, very close and compassionate with each other. But even so, I could see that my wife was still struggling with things. I don't know how else to put it that way, but I could just tell that issues of the past were still something that she was wrestling with, call them demons if you want. That she was, working through them, and I was there for her, and I was just saying, okay, it's going to be fine. And for the most part, it was. There were no blow-ups between us. I know it may sound odd, but we just basically never fought. We had any disagreements, they were minor, and we just worked through them, got to a common decision and moved forward. And so, I would just say my marital life was bliss. It really was. It was just a beautiful marriage, and I was very, very happy to be married with.
Well, she must have thought you were Prince Charming next to her family,
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I'm getting, it's kind of getting to what's coming up here. Because that is the very next bullet point here. Maybe after we had been there about a year, so say around, I can't remember, sure, it's probably in '94, probably around summer of '94, her folks decided to come out for a visit. And long story short, that same psycho woman that was my wife's mother reared her ugly head right out of the gate. And I should also say she was a raging alcoholic too. But I couldn't even, alcoholism couldn't even explain the things I saw from this woman.
In your own house?
In my own house. And now I'm gone most of the time. I was doing field service, so I wasn't suffering it nearly as much as my wife was. But eventually she sat down with me, and I could tell she was under great stress. I don't recall her breaking down in front of me, but I knew she was close. I said, what's going on? Well, finally, her mother did something right in front of me, and I mean to tell you, it was everything in my power to just not grab her by the collar and say, get out of here. I don't ever want to see you again. I really came that close. It was that bad. Oh, by the way, her father was an absolute milquetoast. He did nothing. He was, as far as I was concerned, he was just a hood ornament in that marriage. He literally did nothing. He just appeased her and said, whatever your mother says, you do. When I got to that just about that breaking point, I realized, okay, I only had one more day to go, and they were going to be leaving the next day, but I just said, okay, Carl, suck it up. And when they're gone, you will just explain to your wife that they're never coming back here ever again.
So what happened? That you got so angry at her?
Oh, goodness. Ordering me to go get her alcohol, telling me to shut up. I honestly, it was so over the top. It was almost like it was a comedy skit. But she was a psycho drunk, and that's the best thing I can do. My memory on particulars is very, very sketchy, to say the least. But when they finally got in their rental car, and headed back to the airport, I just took my wife aside and said, they're never coming back here again. And I was wondering how she was going to react. And she just said, thank you. Thank you for taking leadership and saying that. And she said, I don't know how I'm going to make this happen, because she's obviously going to have to inform them. But she finally did. And I said, okay, well, let's just take our time. I'll be, I can be on the other end of the line if you want, or you can do this by yourself, or I'll be there right with you, whatever you want to do. Well, she finally did. And that was, she picked up the phone and made the call, and I was, sitting right next to her, and she did. And I could hear through the receiver her mother just going completely insane. What else is new? As my wife's telling her this, and then I could hear her crying, just going into hysterical crying, and basically she just said, "You're not ever going to do this again. You're completely out of control. I don't know if she used the word psycho, but she got the message." And she said, I don't ever want to see you again, and you can tell Dad that. And she hung up, and she just, fell in my arms and was just so grateful. It's one thing I do remember, in our marriage, that moment, if she just kept telling me again and again how grateful, how thankful to God she was that I was her husband. She said, I could not have done that without you. I could not have finally broken this off, and just said, I'm not going to subject myself to this evil, this wickedness. And I said, okay, well, thank you for saying. I'm glad that, that's, we're a team, we're married. I'm not going to suck it. If it's sending me over the top, I can only imagine how it's just ripping into you. And so she had done that. I was very proud of her, and I thought, okay, that problem solved. it wasn't maybe a week later, her father called, she said, and he says, honey, I've sent your mother off to, and he didn't tell me exactly what it was. I think it was either an insane asylum or some very, very high-end abuse clinic. He sent her to a place in South Carolina. I mean, they live in Pennsylvania. They live, by the way, I never told you, I'm sorry. They used to live in Pennsylvania. They live in Sarasota, Florida, and he's sending his wife, her mother, to someplace in South Carolina. I just remember thinking, whoa. You know, one, I'm glad he finally ponied up and did something about it, but I thought, this is pretty serious to be shipping her out, you know, like 1,000 miles away. And not only that, but she was gone for a year in this place. And that's all we knew. You know, she did not get any more information about it than what her father told her. But we knew that was certainly his acknowledgement that his wife was completely insane and you know, basically committed. And I think the place probably was a mental institution. That and you know, they had the money. Or I soon learned later that they had all the money in the world to do something like that. That was not a problem. So if it was, you know, $1,000 a week or $1,000 a day, whatever, it's like, just don't care. Just tell me how much it is. Here's the check. Get her well. And so that was this big event. And this happened again when I was still in Colorado Springs. And so I'll leave that at that and go to another point here. And I don't remember how soon after that, but one of her cousins, I think her name was Ellen. By the way, she had 17 cousins in this family, this Mick family. She had one aunt and 4 uncles. So there were a lot of cousins in this family. They were mostly scattered all over the states. But this one cousin, Ellen, and her husband, they had gotten married only just like a couple months before us. So they got married and said, hey, we want to come out and visit you. And they came out and visited, and it was mostly a real nice event. Nothing, her cousin was real nice. The husband was a little odd. I remember thinking he was just kind of a little bit of an odd and kind of almost acting like an outcast among the family. But honestly, I kind of sympathized with him because I thought, okay, I get it. I mean, if you're feeling that, I mean, trust me, I get the same feeling too. But he was a little strange. But anyway, personable enough. And anyway, he sets us all down. He says, now, okay, we're glad we're visiting with you, but we also have something big to tell you. And my wife and I looked at each other and go, okay, what is that? I'm thinking, okay, you're pregnant or something like that. You're moving out to Colorado Springs. She said, well, he turns to his cousin, my wife, says, are you aware of the fund? She says, what fund? And she says, do you know anything about the family's wealth? Do you know anything about the family background? And she says, no, I just know her grandfather, her father's father, that he, and I think even great-grandfather, they had connections with Andrew Carnegie at the beginning of the steel industry. And she knew that her grandparents had a lot of money from something. I had not yet seen the grandparents' estate in Pittsburgh. It was a suburb of Pittsburgh. I would eventually see it, but bottom line is there was apparently a tremendous amount of money in this family, and nobody knew about it.
Are we talking like billion, or are we talking like?
No, I'm thinking 9 figures. Yeah, 9 figures. In fact, I'm confidently 9 figures. Who knows? Maybe it could have been 10. To this day, I don't know. But I'm with what he told us, I'm thinking, okay, you're talking about 9 figures of something. And we're just like standing aghast. Well, where did you learn this? First of all, how do you know this? And whatnot. She goes, well, he turns to my wife again and says, well, you know those quarterly dividend checks we get from our aunt? And she said, yeah, at this time, this is like 94, we were getting these quarterly dividend checks through her aunt out of a bank called PNC Bank in Pittsburgh, which I knew nothing about. But I saw these dividend checks coming in, and I just thought, okay, well, her aunt was just distributing this stuff. She was very old at that point. She's just starting to, disperse it, while she was still alive. And at that time, I think every quarter we got around $570 a quarter, every quarter. And it was certainly nice extra money to have, to buy furniture and whatnot with. And, but anyway, he's talking about this, and he goes, that's just the tip of the iceberg. He said, that's just what, her aunt's name was Auntie, they called her, and that's just what she controls. He's saying, the whole family is an heir to a fortune, part of this Andrew Carnegie fortune that our great-grandfather had amassed. And she, I knew nothing of this, of course. And likewise, my wife knew nothing as well. She just had no knowledge of this. And then we finally said, well, how did you know? How did you come up with this? He said, well, something having to do with those disbursement checks. He called up the bank and said, well, listen, I need to know for something regarding taxes. I couldn't even tell you, but he called up. He said, I need to talk to the guy who administers this fund. And the guy picks up and goes, well, who are you? Oh, well, I'm taking over for the guy you usually talk to who manages the NIMIC fund. What is it you know? Well, I need to know, can you give me the balance and whatnot? The guy rolls off, who knows, 50 million, 100, well, it's about 120 million right now, and it's blah, blah, blah. And he goes, what did you just say? He's going, I'm talking about such and such fund. And he goes, well, aren't you such and such, and aren't you calling about the great-grandfather, whatever his name was, his controlling interest in the PNC Bank controlling it? He goes, no. And he goes, oh, I'm very sorry. You're talking about this, and the guy just went right over the other one. He said, have a nice day. And so he hung up, and he immediately picks up the phone and calls, or his wife, Ellen, picks up the phone and calls her father, one of Megan's uncles, said, what's going on here? Well, long story short, the cat got out of the bag. They said, well, none of you were supposed to know. None of you were supposed to know, and this is also a little bit of a clue. None of you were supposed to know of this money until all of us were dead, meaning all uncles and the one aunt. At that point, then it was going to be chopped up and distributed. And so Megan gets this from Ellen and immediately does her own thing, picks up the phone, says, gets on the horn with her father and says, what's going on here? Well, why am I hearing this from my cousin's husband, and why was this being kept from me? And her father just kind of came completely unglued. And I don't mean like psycho, but he was livid. He was livid that the bank had let this out. And I heard summarily that officer was just fired on the spot for doing this, which is really sad. He thought he was talking to someone else, and he didn't know. Bottom line is, her father said, I don't even want to talk to you about this. I don't even want to give you any of this information. And she said, Dad, you need to smell the coffee here. I've already cut my mother off, and you know what? If you don't let me know what's going on here, you're going to treat me like a black sheep of the family. You can choose to do that. But you're either going to give me the information, or you know what? You can join my mother. And I was proud of her that she did that. I said, okay. And he bowed. And he bent. He said, okay, here's the deal. Here's what it is now. This is how much money it is. I can't remember what the total of the NIMIC fortune was, but he said there was a gigantic portion of that that was set apart specifically for the cousins, of which my wife would have been one. And the best I can recall at the time, this would have been the 90s. We didn't have every piece of information, but we had enough to know that, okay, right then and there, that if this had been dispersed, it would have been at least like in the 3 to 5 million for my wife alone. And so, and we just said, okay, it wasn't like it was just there for us. I mean, we said, okay, well, all of your uncles are alive. Who knows when this could be? It was. I also found it to be exceedingly bizarre. I just never stopped scratching my head about it. Although I have figured it out, but at the time, I just thought this is the most bizarre thing I think I've ever heard of. Why would a family say, we all have to be dead before you can have this? I mean, I know it might sound strange because, Well, isn't that how inheritances usually work, you know, if somebody dies and you inherit?
Right,
But-
but you would think like if the parents died, then the child would automatically. come first, right?
Exactly. And they made this thing, no, everyone has to be dead. So if my father-in-law had died, you'd think, okay, we'd be dispersed.
Right.
No, there was a codicil specifically saying, no, you don't touch it until everyone's gone. We can get to that some others, you know, much later in terms of what my speculation. I don't think it's even speculation. I think it sort of, you know, speaks to what they were about and what that family was doing. But anyway, so this was a huge bit of a huge, not life-changing, but it was gigantic to realize this. Like I said, we didn't know it. My wife did not know anything about it. And it was also, it's still very disturbing. You know, we were working through like, well, why would your family do this? Why would they be hiding something? You know, I could sense that there was something at least a little dark about the story, that it did not make sense to me that they'd be hiding this. But anyway, it wasn't going to change anything in the immediate future. We just moved on with our life, and I guess I should say fortunately. I don't know if it was fortunate or not, actually. It probably wasn't fortunate. In fact, I think, well, I'll just go to the next bullet point. I was going to say, it was also learning this that I eventually learned that the family had at least some kind of controlling interest in PNC Bank, which is a bank I didn't know anything about. I didn't know that from Adam, although, you know, it stands for Pittsburgh National Corporation, I think. But it was many years later I realized that I think it was, I don't know if it still is, but it was the 10th largest bank in the United States. So to have a family, have uncles on the board of directors of the 10th largest bank in the country, that is major economic power. I mean, you're talking, at, well, dare I say it, the Illuminati level, or, you know, somewhere close. Anyway, just wanted to make that point. I also said here that it was probably that monetary issue breaking out and coming in the open, and with Megan, my wife, putting her father on the spot like that. I really think even now that was probably the point at which the family said, okay, Carl needs to go. This wouldn't have happened if he wasn't in this family, or he wasn't with her. I mean, and it's true. Megan never said, but I think they deduced that, yeah, this guy is single-handedly pushing right into our dark society. I didn't use the term dark society then, but that's what I see it as now. And it was naively so. I was just like, what are the facts? Why are you holding this from your own daughter? Why is this happening? So I'm naively walking into a lion's den, not realizing it. So I believe to this day that that's probably when that family said, you're a marked man. And so anyway, that was just something I wanted to say. So anyway, eventually the contract that I was working there in Colorado Springs was basically coming to an end, and I was getting very tired of field service work, because I had made several trips out to Corvallis, Oregon, HP plant in Corvallis, Oregon. I really liked the place there. It was really pretty. I thought, well, if I could secure something there, I'd be very interested in doing that. So I contacted a few of the contacts I had there and said, would you be interested in perhaps hiring me if I leave this company? They said, oh, absolutely. So I, long story short, interviewed, and they hired me and made me an offer. And so I tendered my resignation with Leica and put the house on the market in Colorado Springs and eventually moved. And so we moved to Corvallis, Oregon in January of 1997. I don't know, I might have had this slightly out of order here, but it was about this time I just wanted to say that Megan's mother finally got out of that, whatever that institution was, and at least facially had the appearance that whatever psycho world she was living in the past was behind her, and and she started very, very little bits trying to approach her daughter, my wife. And very gingerly, I have to say. In fact, it convinced me that, you know, whatever were all of her problems, that they were gone. And I just thought then she was just, you know, a raging alcoholic. And, but I was very, very leery of my wife having any contact with her. I just knew this woman was just wicked at heart. And coupled with the story, you know, the ritualistic raping, I'm thinking, okay, you know, come on, I mean, just because you sent her to some, you know, six-figure clinic in South Carolina doesn't just make her an angel. It's just,
No, you have to be a sicko.
oh yeah, yeah, you're something, you're just full blown. I mean, I didn't have that knowledge then. I mean, I had a considerable amount, but I can't even remotely claim that I had the wisdom and understanding to see what I see now, as opposed to then. So I said, you know what? In fact, here's how we had moved. We're now in Corvallis, and her mother and her father, I think it was even her father, called her and said, "Listen, we would really like to see you." They hadn't seen her at this point. This is around 90, either mid 97, maybe it could have even been in 98. So let's just say at least 2, maybe better part of 3 years. They hadn't seen their daughter at all, which was a big, big deal for them. And they said, "Listen, we're coming out to Palo Alto to visit with Frank." That was my former boss, the guy I used to work for, my mother-in-law's cousin. And they said, "We're staying at his house, and we would just be so delighted if you could just come and visit us, even if it's just, you know, meeting for lunch, whatever." They were really shrewd in how they were trying to bring this, you know, healing or the connection together. And I said, "Do you think you can do this? Do you really want to do this?" And of course they said, "We'll put you up at a hotel, we'll get you a rental car, we'll give you all the money you need. It won't cost anyone a dime, we'll pick up the whole town." I said, "Do you want to do it?" I just like, "Is this what you really want to do?" She said, "All right, you know what, under those terms." She took the train down from Albany to San Jose. And as I recall, that's what she did. She stayed at the hotel and met them for either a breakfast or a lunch. And that was it. And then got back on the train, came back. And, you know, I'm just waiting to say, "Well, how did this go?" "Well, it supposedly went very well." You know, and she was saying, "Hey, my mother does seem changed, like whatever was wrong, you know, she's dealing with it." And she was claiming, her mother was claiming that it was alcoholism and that she was now on an AA program, and, you know, the 12 points healing and whatnot, which I thought was a bunch of, you know, nonsense. But what I just cared about is that she was known as this crazy woman ruining my wife's life and mine. So I just kind of threw that in there at this point to say that at this point there's a very slow and calculated start to connect with our daughter, kind of a thing going on.
Well, at the same time, kind of pull her away from you.
Well, it certainly had it had no appearance of that whatsoever, but they knew they had to start from scratch
Right.
to affect that. So you do know where they're going with this. I had no clue. I just thought, okay, just parents are sorrowful that they lost the connection with their daughter and everything had happened. You know, I'm not thinking, "Oh goodness, I married into the Illuminati and this is what they're doing." You know, I wasn't really a million miles of that kind of understanding.
Well, isn't that always how evil works, though? It always starts off real slow.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it just kinda
it's
creeps
so,
up.
it's so microscopically incremental, you just don't see it.
Right.
And that is exactly true. You know, I mean, knowing what I know now, if I mean, someone said, "Okay, we're gonna put you back in 1991 again," I'd see the whole thing, it was just as clear as day. But, you know, unfortunately, I didn't have that. I mean, I could see, but I couldn't see enough. So anyway, the next little bullet point here is just that when we moved to Corvallis, we expected, of course, to buy a house. You know, we had some good equity in what we had sold in the house in Colorado Springs. We ended up buying a house that was sort of on the outskirts of town, sort of semi-rural, actually, what should I say, semi-rural, mostly rural. And long story short, there, the contractor, it needed some work, but it was on a beautiful, beautiful property. And the contractor ended up being just a crook and tried to take us. And I stood up to this guy and said, "Well, that's not going to happen. If you want to make this a court matter, we'll do so." And he went and hired a lawyer. And at that time, I did too. Well, I thought that's what you had to do, is to hire a lawyer. And long story short, it took about a year to work through. And the damage that they were trying to take me for basically was just stopped cold. And it ended in, I'm just going to say, I think it ended around in the autumn of 1998, and we got through the legal matter. But because of that, the house just had a really sour thing. It was just like, okay, you know what, there's no good memory here. It was really a very, very, very unpleasant affair for me. And I was the one who had to shoulder most of this. And
Well, what would you have done differently if you
regarding that house.
Yes, you said that you wouldn't have hired a lawyer, which, I mean.
Well, then I could go into that now. I could talk for several hours about that. I mean, I know there are exceptions. Well, we have a wonderful brother here in our congregation who is clearly, unmistakably an exception to the rule, but as an overarching rule and observation, I mean, nature of lawyerdom is.
So you would represent yourself?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that only now, being where I am now, knowing what I know now. I just did what I could do, and I didn't have the internal power or understanding to know, hey, what you just need to do is step up and represent yourself. It's legal terms pro se, but it didn't matter. I mean, I didn't spend that much money on this attorney. I probably wasn't even $5,000, which was a lot of money, but the kind of money you can put into attorneys can be astronomical. Yeah. But the bottom line of that story was that I more than anything else, did not want to move to that house. It had so many bad memories at this point. And I mean, this contractor was a real sleazy character. And he hired a real sleazy, accommodating attorney to do his bidding. And though I didn't even make a bullet point that sleazy attorney ended up being a Benton County judge, not one that I ended up having to deal with, at least initially. But maybe we can talk about that some other time. So we put the house up for sale, and we finally sold it. And the good news was that we got all of our money out of it, including all of the work we put into it. And so I had a really good chunk of money to buy another home. So my next bullet point is that sometime in that time frame, I was poking around North Albany. Albany, the town of Albany is only about 9 miles away from Corvallis. And they're almost like, twin cities or twin townships. But I just one time was thinking, well, I wanted a house. I always was dreaming to get a house with some kind of property. I mean, I don't mean like giant property, but something with nice room around it. Oregon, it is wide open. I mean, California, by comparison, is very dense in terms of population. But Oregon is just lots and lots of properties available. Now, I did have a tall order that I wanted one that had all the amenities. I didn't want to be living as a recluse out in, a log cabin. But long story short, I stumbled across this property, which was called North Albany, and it was actually in the Benton County side. The township of Albany is split in half by the Willamette River. And the only reason I'm saying this is because that puts us in Benton County, which becomes relevant later on. And I found this one property, and most everything out there in this northern part of Albany was just in these gentle rolling hills, very, very picturesque and beautiful. And I stumbled on this one neighborhood. What I meant to say is everything is mostly just like chunks of property with someone building their typical house, and they either have horses or seed farms, sometimes with huge acreage. But they were not your typical subdivision whatsoever. They were just one-ofs and these big plots here, 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 and here. Definitely mostly a rural living. Well, there was this one, I stumbled into this actual subdivision. I mean, it was like a subdivision, like it was developed as a subdivision. At the very northernmost part of Albany, that was just breathtakingly beautiful. It had every city service, everything except sewer. You didn't need sewer out there; everything was septic. But other than that, I mean, the property had everything. Including they even went to the expense of even burying the power line, so you didn't have telephone poles and no parking on the street coming in there. Point is that it was a wonderful neighborhood. I went in there and I went, oh wow, in my wildest dreams would I love to live here. But as I drove through it, there were only about like 25 homes in this subdivision. The reason was every single lot at minimum was an acre and a half. With some in like 2.5 to 3 acres each, but it was just, to my eyes, the ideal place. So I always had this, and it was called Bramblewood Drive. I always had Bramblewood Drive as like the ideal place. I said, well, in a perfect world, I had unlimited money, I'd go look for a place in Bramblewood Drive. Anyway, eventually, we do finally get everything taken care of in terms of legality with the Star Creek Road home. Interestingly, I don't know if I can tell. Yeah, it was because what had gone so south with Star Creek Road that I was looking at our investment portfolio, which I have not told you about that until the specific thing until now. So what I did know in terms of monies that my wife had when we got married, it wasn't even until we were engaged. My wife said, well, hey, I'd like to let you know that I have a little bit of a fund that's left over from my college fund. I go, oh, really, what's that? She said, yeah, well, my father, when I was born, put $5,000 into an investment account. Just made that her college fund account. She says, well, I didn't end up spending all of it, most of it, but I have, at that time when she told me, I think she said it was somewhere like $40,000 to $45,000.
Oh, wow.
I said, wow, that's a nice chunk of change. That's certainly a nice down payment. In fact, I didn't mention it earlier, but we used some of that as a down payment on the home we bought in Colorado Springs. Now, I should also stop at this point and tell you what my financial situation was. I was just living life as a bachelor for the most part, and I was very, very frugal with my money, but at that time, I had gone into a love of mine. It was just, I can't even tell you what a great love this was, but I started collecting railroad antiques. I had been a train buff since I was 4 years old. And I just fell into these unique antiques. Primarily what I collected was railroad dining car china and silver. I know this is a very esoteric type specialty, but actually among a thinly traded crowd, it's a very, very fiercely competitive and quite pricey hobby. And so a lot of my savings went into that. And but I think at that time, I'm just giving it as a backdrop. I probably had about $15,000 of my own money. So I had about $15,000 of my own. I learned that my wife had this about $45,000 in her fund. So that was like our core operating capital to down payments and whatnot for a home. But at the end of that Star Creek Road fiasco, something just hit me. One, the fund that we started out with at $45,000 when we got married in the spring of '93, by the end of, it would have been late '98, the fund was being managed by the family investor. It was a Briggs Investment Management in Houston, Texas. And this guy said, well, you know what, if your dad's recommending it, obviously you guys know how to handle money, so what the heck, let's see how this guy does. And every quarter, every half, I get a statement, I mean, this guy just knew how to invest, and he was investing very aggressively, I mean, in the most aggressive types of, high-flying stock investments of the '90s. A Global Crossing, Enron, some of these you should know, Enron, which would put a shield on your back. But he turned, bottom line was, he turned that $45,000 in the spring of '93 to $160,000 by